All right, welcome to the Creation to Cash Flow podcast, where we discuss strategies to maximize your creativity and help you achieve financial freedom. Michelle, how's it going today?
I am so excited because today we actually have an amazing guest speaker on our podcast.
Yes, today we have Shawn Williams joining us. Shawn, we have been working together for quite a long time in the content creator space, building out your business, and just watching you grow and thrive as a creator and an entrepreneur. So, why don't you give us a little introduction?
Absolutely. First off, I'm so excited to be here with you guys in this great podcast that you started. So definitely happy to be a guest speaker. A little bit about me. So I'm definitely not your typical a creator starting out in a UGC business. I'm a little bit older, but not necessarily old either. I've definitely dove right into the creating my own business while balancing a full-time job as well as balancing a full-time family. So we do have 5 kids who may or may not be included in some content that we create from time to time. But that's a little bit about me and my journey so far, and trying to continue down that path to working full time in content creation.
Amazing, Shawn. Thank you for sharing that. And just for anyone in the audience listening who isn't sure, because we kind of talk about business in general as well as content creation, tell us a little bit more specifically about what is your business? What does a UGC business look like for someone like you?
Oh, absolutely. So definitely working very heavily with a ton of different brands and creating content for whether it's paid advertisement or organic reach, whether they're wanting to grow a following or just have additional eyeballs on their page to essentially convert to selling more products. What I do in my business is I work closely with those brands. And of course, because I am a little bit older, I do have a little bit of a niche from that perspective to where I'm able to cater to some of the brands that are looking for older creators, but also I'm young at heart and also have a ton of other options when it comes to having a wife as a creator as well as kids as creators, and just being able to just open the door for so many opportunities and working with brands and ultimately working with those brands to create conversions and so that they can sell more products or services.
That is beautiful, Shawn. And I think the first really important question I would love to ask you is, how did this fall into your lap? What made you decide, not that you're not as old as you make yourself out to be, but most people don't start businesses, right, at later in life. Usually once you have kids, people find that they're too busy and they have all of these limiting beliefs that would stop them from starting a business. So tell us how that came about for you.
So for me, it's a very funny story in the sense that I did not choose this path; it kind of chose me, right, to an extent. So with having teenage kids, and just to set the record straight, I'm 40, right? So not too young, not too old, right? But I found myself paying attention to my kids as a father, on social media, especially TikTok, right? And that's where a lot of things that started. And so initially, my very first video that I created was on TikTok, and essentially, I was making fun of my kids, right? And so what ended up happening was I didn't expect it, but things just started blowing up, and I started trying a couple different things, and definitely getting some advice from my kids on, hey, what works, what doesn't. And then over time, it was kind of like a role reversal to where I was full force and really driving to grow on TikTok. And then of course, next thing you know, you have some of my kids in middle school that some of their friends started following me on TikTok, or they would start talking to my kids about a funny TikTok that I did at the time. And so it's definitely an interesting start, but it's very similar to what a lot of other older creators that do start, where it's usually a joke or something that didn't necessarily kind of go out and try to find.
So Shawn, when you were deciding that this might really become an avenue for income. What were the things going through your mind? Were you thinking to yourself, like, wait a minute, am I, is 40 too old to be doing this? Should I be starting a business? I have a full time job. I'm busy. I'm trying to manage time with my family and my kids. How did you navigate all of the thoughts that they all just start showing up when people start these creative projects and new businesses? Like your brain automatically goes to reasons that it can't work before reasons that it can. So, how did you navigate that?
So first and foremost, it's never too late to get started, and I'm definitely living proof of that because, I did go to school. I did become a software engineer, which had a lot of schooling behind it, as well as an overall professional career that, I've been very successful in. But then, whenever I started this journey on starting on TikTok before I started getting into monetization, I noticed that I was spending a lot of time and effort and really growing, a following. But then at the same time, I knew that there were brands out there that were looking for content that I could create for them. And so then the light bulb just clicked, it just went off. And then I was able to start just thinking about, hey, well, how can I start to move in that direction, knowing that I still have my full time 9 to 5 software engineering job, but at the same time, driving towards a newfound passion, even this late in life. So one of the things I definitely want to mention is that it's never too late to get started. It doesn't matter what you have and have not accomplished in life, what degrees you have and what you don't have. It comes down to, are you happy doing what you're doing? If not, change it. Don't ever be afraid to own your age.
I love that, Sean. I feel like I went through something similar, although it was opposite in a way, right? Like I was I was 22 when I started like really getting serious about my content and posting, and things started blowing up, and it was opening my eyes more and more to the fact that like this really, this could be my life if I keep working at this. And I had the full-time engineering job myself. I know you said you're a software engineer, I was a civil engineer, but I was not happy. And that's the most important question we can always ask ourselves, regardless of your age. Are you happy with what your days look like? Are you happy with the way that you make money? Because money's not everything, but it is a necessity. It is something that we do need to an extent. And it's scary, it's scary to get started on a new way to make money because you don't know how it's going to go. And it's even scarier if you're putting yourself out there, because what if it doesn't work and you told all these people and they saw you starting this creative project and passion? What if it fails? Michelle, do you have anything to add on that front? I mean, you've lived through all of this too.
Yeah, I think that because I've always taken a path where I just want to do what does bring me joy, whether or not I'm getting paid a lot. Like I came from a nonprofit background where I was making barely any money. So I was there because I was happy there, not because of the money. And so I've always chased what does bring me fulfillment and knowing I can make a positive impact. So I think that everybody's journey obviously looks different. But at the end of the day, we are meant to thrive in life. That's what we are created to do, and what makes us feel like we're thriving looks different. And so I think that if somebody's chasing what makes them feel that fulfillment, that it's going to make you successful. You will be successful because you're literally doing what you're meant to be doing. And it sounds like Shawn realized like, oh, this is a new thing I never thought about 10 years ago doing, but it makes me happy, so I'm going to do it.
I love that. And you really hit the nail on the head with the fact that like it could come out of nowhere one day. Like I was 22 and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, God, Nick, like you are people, you inspire people and you motivate people, and your friends that you've lived with have said that like you make them more disciplined and you make them want to go to the gym and eat healthy and like live a better life. And I just looked at myself and I was like, I feel like that's what I meant to do to a degree. And I don't even know how I would get started with it, but I just decided to get started and figure that out later. And it almost just fell into my lap. And it turned out I really liked it and I was passionate about it. And then you start to see a little bit of results. and then it snowballs. I mean, wouldn't you say that's pretty much how it goes, Sean? Like once you get a little taste of like, wait a minute, this is a cool way for me to make a little money and make other people's lives better, that's when you get the bug.
That's right. I mean, for me personally, I started to dabble in it and start, started to get some paychecks, right, that was coming from this. And initially I started thinking it was more of like a side hustle, but then I quickly realized that there's a ton of opportunity out there. And so the more and more I dove in, the more and more I get in return. And so it's definitely, definitely opportunity. And if you don't take it, you're not going to get it.
You're right about that. And I also want to give a special shout out to the Brands Meet Creators Academy for bringing us all together. That was essentially how the three of us all got linked up because we were all creators looking to learn and grow together. And a really important thing to note is that on these journeys, right, when you figure out something creative that you love and you want to turn it into a passion that pays you, making investments in yourself so that you can put yourself in a place where you will meet like-minded individuals that are learning the things you need to learn and people teaching the things that are currently holding you back. It is the best thing you can do to accelerate that journey.
Yeah. I feel like we all three knew that this is something that is possible, and that I think the cause and effect that we have in the back of our mind, like if we do this, we will get this in return. That is just going to happen. That is scientifically proven by one of the scientists y'all probably can quote. But that's just like we believed in ourselves, and then we got it right back. We got it returned to us tenfold because of the investment in believing in ourselves.
Yeah, it's true. Time really is the most valuable resource that we have. And making investments that are going to save you time and put you in a place where you have community and you can learn and grow. Like I have spent 20, 30, I don't know, maybe $40,000 even on courses and mentorships and communities and just learning things that one, increase my earning capacity and two, buy me back time. Because time is really the most important thing we have. And Sean, I would love to pick your brain now about how you manage your time, still having the full time job, working on becoming and continuing to succeed as an entrepreneur, but also balancing time with your family. Because to me, time with family is the most important thing. So tell us a little bit about how you find that balance.
It's hard to find the right balance, and the right balance for me, it may be different for you, Nick, it may be different for you, Michelle, but for me, finding the right balance is making sure that I'm able to juggle the needs from that 9 to 5 job while continuing to grow my business, while continuing to learn and communicate with other communities, right? But then also making sure that you can't forget the balance between family time and work time, because you can't just shut your family out either while you're continuing to find the right balance. For me, it was a lot of trial and error. I started seeing all these opportunities start to come in for me, but I knew that if I said yes to every single one of those, that I was then going to have an imbalance with my 9 to 5 or with my family. So a lot of that was trial and error and learning that you have to say no. You have to be selective at times, even though, of course, the entrepreneur in yourself wants to, yes, let me jump all over that. Let me take care of that. But then soon you're going to be in total imbalance. And so for me, it was a lot of trial and error and trying different things that worked and didn't work. But you also have to keep in mind that you're going to face adversity. Unexpected things are always going to pop up. And this doesn't matter if it's in your 9 to 5, where maybe you have a deadline that pops up and you need to jump on it, which is, maybe it's a heavier load than normal and you're having to spend a little bit of time at night or on the weekends to jump on that. Well, then it's a domino effect on some family time or growing your business side. And so, you may also have some random things that happen at home. Maybe your dishwasher goes out, right? Or the kids need some extra help on their homework, right? And so these things happen. And so you really have to figure out what is the right balance between all of that to not only keep yourself moving forward in each of those areas, but also making sure that you're keeping yourself happy and healthy at the same time. The biggest thing that has been a success for me in helping to strike that balance is to start writing everything down of what I'm doing with my 9 to 5. What am I doing with growing my business as well as my family time? Because at the end of the day, history typically repeats itself. And so if you're able to write everything down and kind of study that, you're then also able to start scheduling things out, right? So writing everything down from a scheduling perspective has been the probably the number one thing that has helped me find that right balance.
Michelle, are you a big scheduler?
Oh, yes. I would not get anything done because when I'm creating, time literally just like flies out the window. Like, I could be making a video for 5 hours and not realize it's been 5 hours and I've neglected like making dinner or doing things. And so I have to schedule out things hour by hour, sometimes in 30-minute increments, and then look at it and reference it constantly throughout the day. And I'm so curious, Shawn, do you limit yourself every night or every other night or something to how long you're going to spend on your business? Like, how do you schedule out your day with all of that?
Uh, so for me, it's more about repetition. Um, Once you start getting into a routine of, hey, I know whenever I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be doing this or thinking about this while I'm driving the kids to school and dropping them off. Whenever I get home, I know that I'm going to spend this hour focusing on this, and then start to dive into, well, here's my 9 to 5. I know that I have these meetings that are scheduled. I know that I need to work on this particular project. So I need to be full force on that. But then, hey, at lunchtime, maybe I'll spend 30 minutes and do X, Y, Z. And so really kind of getting myself into scheduling in that manner, but then most importantly, day after day, trying to repeat that as much as I can. Because if you slack off a little bit, it's going to have a domino effect on other things. And unfortunately, for most of us, that have a 9 to 5, what typically gets sacrificed is growing your business. And then ultimately, that doesn't make you happy because you're not able to continue that growth that you want to have in your business, and so it just takes you much longer to get where you want to be.
That's a really good point, Sean. I feel like I was living through that not too long ago, minus the 5 kids. So, I mean, I was feeling it too. Like it was very hard balancing working like 8 to 10 hours per day, getting home at like 5:30, and now I'm like, okay, great. I would love to just take a nap, eat dinner, waste my time on YouTube or Netflix and just go to bed. But instead, I would sit at my laptop for another 3, 4, sometimes 6 hours and work on growing my business. And I barely even had any distractions in my life. I mean, obviously, there are things, but kids are probably the hardest to manage. Keeping your kids alive is definitely time consuming. So when I was trying to balance that, it really felt like this constant, never ending battle of like work all day, come home and work all night, repeat the next day and the next day and the next day. And then I blinked and suddenly my job was that I spent way more time on was making me the same amount of money as my creative projects and my passions and entrepreneurship. And that was when suddenly I was like, I need to start writing down things too. I need to start documenting how all of my time is spent and have an honest conversation and say, if I free up 40 hours a week, 160 hours per month, what else am I going to be able to accomplish? So when I finally made that cut and I was able to quit my full time job, suddenly it felt like the floodgates opened. But then time management becomes another struggle. Suddenly you have so much time and it's easy to let it slip away. So, anyway, Sean, I'm curious, since you probably have a big plan in place, what is your long-term plan as an entrepreneur? Are you looking to leave the 9 to 5 and go full-time entrepreneur and content creator, or are you enjoying the balance and the stability that comes from still having a full-time job?
So my ultimate goal is to be, a full-time content creator as well as husband and father. And there's no slowing that down. The 9 to 5, I definitely have to keep that in from a stability perspective, and being able to make sure that we are taking care of our family while we continue to make this transition. But there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that the 9 to 5 will go bye bye at some point. But want to make sure that I'm taking care of my family properly before making that ultimate decision.
So knowing now that, of course, when you have a family and a mortgage and all of these important commitments in life, you probably do, meaning the listener, you probably do have to consider more balancing your full-time job and that stability with growing your business. So, Shawn, what would you say to someone that is struggling with their energy levels? Like, I'm curious how you manage that to still show up as a great dad and to still show up and give a good effort to your business while also still giving a good effort to your 9 to 5. Do you have any tips or anything that you kind of live by?
So for me, it's definitely you just have to push through it. If you want to get to that long term goal that you have to push yourself through those struggles. I'm going to tell you right now, it's hard. It's really hard. But at the end of the day, I know that the reward at the end is going to be more time with my family, and also more financial freedom for my family to where we can do even more things without feeling guilty about certain things. So that's what drives me. And because of having that passion to get to that goal, that's really been the key to pushing through those days whenever it would be easy to, oh, well, let's just jump, into the 9 to 5, and let's not do the content creation and grow my business. Um, but that, but ultimately, I would never be able to get where I ultimately want to be with my family and my own ambition.
You said something really powerful there that made me think about this. Of course, it's easy to show up, right? Some days we just have that energy and maybe there's not that many distractions and things are going well. But showing up on the days that you don't feel like it, you're tired, everything is kind of falling apart. Maybe you got a couple doors slammed in your face in your business or at work, and maybe you finished a big project and people just weren't grateful. So, being able to, like, success really is built on those days that you don't feel like it. If you only work on the easy days, you're not going to get nearly as far as you're capable of as a content creator or an entrepreneur or with ever creative passion it is that you're trying to build. So I really like your philosophy on that.
One thing I want to mention too is that passion, Nick, that you're talking about. No matter what your age, no matter what your ability is, that passion is what will deliver results.
That's a really good point. Michelle, do you want to add anything to that? Because I mean, I know you and I could probably talk for a few hours about like how much easier it is to work on that thing that you're passionate about. Like I would always come home exhausted from my day job, but then I would get to sit at the computer and do the thing I love. And even though I was exhausted, I would catch my second wind and I'm like, all right, this is the thing that I want to be doing. So I would almost save some energy, or it would just show up.
I mean, yeah, when you're passionate about something, it it fuels you in this way that like you can't explain, but it would fuel me. I would want to come home and lay on the couch and take a nap, but then I would remember like, oh, I have people that I'm helping right now with content creation, or like I have this brand that's doing this really good mission for the world, and like I get to help tell the world about their mission and about what they're doing to help the world, and it would just like fuel me. And that's what drives me. And having a big why. Like this past year with my husband on deployment, I was like, okay, I don't have anyone that I have to come home to. So I am going to spend every hour that I possibly can working on my business, working on myself, because it's this short time frame. And now I'm like, okay, like I give myself time frames and a big enough why that when the passion is still there, but maybe the motivation to work on it isn't there, it it takes over. That why just is at the forefront of my mind. And it's like, there's a lot at stake if I don't show up right now. And that's what gets me through the day, every single day.
Yeah, you're right. It really, motivation is not too reliable, but knowing the reason and being so in touch with that, I feel like it comes up most episodes because it's that important. Like you really need to stay in touch with why you want to go through all of this. Like Shawn, you know in your brain, why am I going through essentially working two full-time jobs? And your why is to be able to spend more time and live a better life with your family. And that is like one of the most powerful reasons in the book. Like that is more than enough, no matter what your age is, to get started on something like this and just get it going. Because Shawn, eventually, you're going to be able to free up 40 hours per week, and you may only have to dedicate 15 of those hours to keep the business moving at the pace you'd like, and all of that other time is going to go towards the things you love and the people you love.
That's right. Absolutely.
So I guess this would be a really good time to ask you, Shawn. You've been inspiring a lot of people, especially some people's parents that are relating to your situation. Can you tell us about that? I would love to hear more.
I'm so glad you asked that, Nick, because inspiration is one of those things that it gets me every time, right? So I do have a story around that. I've had a few creators reach out to me, one more on the TikTok side, and then one on the UGC side that I want to mention. That when they reached out to me, they let me know that I inspired their mom or dad to put themselves out there and get into TikTok as well as get into UGC. And you know just being able to have that feedback and not knowing that I was touching somebody's life or somebody's parents life in such a way that they were then also able to put themselves out there and start to have some successful accounts on TikTok or UGC or some of the other areas. And at the end of the day, it just shows and it proves time and time again that it's never too late to get started.
Shawn, what does that do to your drive and your motivation and your energy levels when you hear that you've inspired someone else to take the same leap? Because that's not the reason you started this, right? You started this with your goal of helping your family free up their time. But as a side effect, usually when you put yourself out there and you do something that's difficult and scares you, chances are, you being anyone, you're going to inspire someone else to do something similar. So, how did that affect you, Shawn?
Honestly, it drove the passion even more. But then also, it kind of branched off into a different passion because when I first started the content creation side and starting to monetize off of it, it was more about the financial freedom for me and my family, and so that there's that one passion. But then, whenever I started getting feedback and being able to help other people along their journey, it's really also launched me into picking up coaching on the UGC side. So you see myself on Twitter and on TikTok, as well as other communities, in helping other creators, no matter what the age, no matter what their ability is, because there are things that I've learned along the way that I know that I can help somebody else out along their journey. And so that right there fuels that passion even more. And it proves to me that what I'm doing is the right thing, right? I'm going along the right path because if you're able to not only, you know, get yourself to more of that financial freedom that you want, but then you're also able to help others get to that point too, that's a win-win. And if that does not drive passion for you, then I don't know what you're doing, right? Because being able to help somebody else as well as being able to continue along your journey, that's powerful. That's passion right there.
Yeah, I feel like whenever those hard days do come, it's so important to remember what else is out there that you're doing this for. Like the comments that I get on TikTok and the tweets that I get, like that keeps me going and reminds me why I'm doing this, because having those constant reminders, bad things will come, but whenever you're like also piled on getting good positive feedback, it's almost like the fire that keeps it going. And I think it's so powerful for us to be grateful for those little comments. Like, that's somebody's life that we're impacting. That is amazing. And you're right, Shawn, you've learned so many things along your journey so far that other people are where you used to be and you can teach them. And that's so exciting that you have that opportunity to do that.
Usually when people think of the side effects of business and putting yourself out there, they think about being ridiculed and they think about being judged and they think about how much less time they're going to have and how tired they're going to be. But it isn't until you get started that you start to see that there are so many amazing side effects of business. And also, most of them that scare you from getting started, you'll find out a lot of them aren't even real. You're not going to be too tired when you're working on something you love. And you're not going to know that you're going to touch other people's lives and inspire them. And maybe, Shawn, who knows? I mean, a year or two from now, there might be other families out there where whoever it was that you inspired quits their full-time job and now they have more time with their family and they become a coach later. And like, you will never be able to measure and fully grasp the effect that putting yourself out there in the world has, because it's just impossible to keep track of all of the lives that you're influencing. But even the words we're saying on this podcast, like, you don't know who it's going to reach and you don't know what it's going to do to people. And it's just one of the amazing side effects of getting started. But if you don't get started with your creative passion or project, you may never get to feel those feelings. And to me, it's been some of the most fulfilling things I've ever felt in my life. Like, my 9 to 5 job would never provide me the satisfaction of saying, like, you did a great job, Nick, or you've changed my life and you inspired me to quit my job or to do something amazing or to go on a weight loss journey or whatever it comes out to be. So it's just really amazing to think about, like, the reach that we have, regardless of your followers or whether you're even on social media. People are going to hear and talk and realize what you're doing. This would probably be a really good time, Shawn. I want to also ask, what would you say right now to someone that came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm your age, but I'm just scared. I want to start a business. I want to free up my time, but I'm just scared. I feel like I'm not going to be able to keep up with all of the technology and things." What would you say to someone, Shawn?
I would definitely tell someone that's wanting to start out is that you just have to go for it. I mean, there's going to be things that you're going to learn. There's going to be things that are going to be hard, but it's totally worth it. Being able to represent, whether it's an older age, middle age, whatever type of creator, there are tons of opportunities that are out there that are untapped. At the end of the day, the content creation world is heavy younger creators. One thing I also want to point out is there are thousands of brands out there that are looking for older creators, middle aged, older, whatever the case is. And because there's not as many creators that are representing that age group, there are tons and tons of opportunities. And so what I would recommend to that person is you have to push through it. You have to push through that typical imposter syndrome that you're going to face, and just go for it. There are going to be those scenarios where you may have somebody that, oh, you're too old to do this and that and whatnot, but you have to get past it. And once you get past it and you see the fruits of that labor of that time investment that you are putting into it, you're going to get so much more in return.
That's a great point, Shawn. And I want to reemphasize the fact that it's not even just UGC creators. Like, you mentioned that there's
Absolutely.
thousands of brands that might be a good fit for you because of your specific qualities, but no matter what your creative passion is or your business model is, there are people out there, they might not even know it yet, but they're looking for you. They're not looking for someone else. They will relate to you and they will relate to your story. So no matter what it is that you start or that you work on or that really just fuels you, the world is so big. I promise you, like, people convince themselves these crazy things that, like, I won't find any clients, no one's going to want to work with me, no one wants, like, I used to have to fight those demons myself. Like, who wants a 22-year-old life coach? I've barely lived any life, but I knew that I had it in me, and I knew that there would be people that resonated. And I worked with people that were much younger than me, and I worked with people as old as like 68, 69 years old. And but it's these crazy stories we tell ourselves to avoid getting started, to just be like, no, that could never work for me. But you're never too young and you're never too old to do something that's going to change the world and make you money and help other people and just move the needle in the right direction. So, Shawn, this is a really good time to shout you out on Twitter and TikTok for anyone who wants to find you on there. Your username is UGC underscore coach. Michelle, do you have anything else you want to ask Shawn?
I mean, it's so inspiring to hear what you're doing because I do feel like having a male creator is already a lot less saturated, but having a male creator who's also a full-time husband, dad, and has a full-time job, like it's just so inspiring. And I love that you had this vision and you didn't let lack of knowledge or your current stability stop you from pursuing that. I think that it's just noteworthy to say how inspiring you are, even to me, and again, to so many parents out there. And I just want to thank you so much for doing this. Like, it gave me goosebumps. Like, you doing this and being on this podcast with us is so impactful in of itself, but you have so much more. Like, this is the beginning of your journey, I feel like, and it's just so exciting that people who are quote unquote set in their ways a lot of times past the age of 35, they have dreams, but they don't think they're possible. And I love that you're just like, no, I see this opportunity. It is possible. It will happen. And I'm going for it. And I appreciate that you're doing this. So thank you.
No, I appreciate those kind words from both of you, and you both are inspirations to me in my journey as well, and definitely appreciate what the community that we have been able to have together and grow together. One last thing that I want to mention on my end, for those that are really trying to strike that balance, is there's a motto that I live by. If you're not doing this for your family or your loved ones, why are you doing this? So keep that in mind. Let that be your passion to drive you to where you want to be in your end goals.
I like that a lot, Shawn. So grateful we were able to have you on here. You're the first official guest speaker. So, I mean, when we're working on our millionth episode and we've really blown up and reached a ton of people, they're going to go back and they're going to want to see who was the first person we brought on, and really happy was able to be you, Shawn.
Absolutely. The only thing that I need to get from you guys is a promise that once we get to that millionth episode, you bring me back.
Okay. Sounds fair enough. I'd like to get you back a couple times in between then too.
Let's do it.
All right. So if you're looking for more ways to monetize your creativity and find more freedom in your life, please subscribe. Tell us what guests you want us to bring. Shoot us DMs, comments, anything you want us to talk about. We'd be happy to. Just get in touch. And if you're looking to find me on Instagram or TikTok or check out any of my free resources, my username is at Get Ahead with Nick. If you're looking to get in touch with Michelle, her Instagram and TikTok are at Michelle JH. Michelle has two L's, four E's, JH. Love you all for listening. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you next time.